Hello, my name is Mark, and I thank you so much for coming by today. What you're looking at here is an old Sakura watercolor field kit that I've had for years. I've actually had a few of these over the years, and I went through them like crazy because I used to travel a lot for work and for pleasure, and this would come with me wherever I went. I love it because it's compact. The palette, it comes with a palette that you can attach to the sides, and it comes with little paper towel areas on the side. There used to be sponges in there, but I replaced them. But especially because it comes with this Sakura water brush. It's a little reservoir handle that you take the plug out, fill that body with water, you screw on the top portion here, remove the cap, and expose the bristles, and off you go painting. And it's all about how much water you need to control for your painting. So what you can do is just squeeze the body of the brush to draw out the water from the bristles. And you can see here I'm really putting a lot of pressure on because I want to get a lot of water out. This brush is very soft and flexible, and you can squeeze it and bend it to get that water out. And with the wet bristles, you just apply that to the paint pan there, the little cake, add it to your water to get the desired amount, and then you can start painting right away. And for the cleanup part, you just squeeze out water until the color comes out. Sometimes it's a little more, a little less. Paint does not draw back into the brush, but water pushes it out. And cleaning it up is as simple as wiping it off on a paper towel, replacing that plug to the reservoir, and storing it away back in your kit. It couldn't be simpler. I think inventions like this are just absolutely ingenious, and I'm so happy that somebody created something like this because it has become an indispensable part of my travel kit. And you can see here this little Sakura kit. It has been great for me for years. However, I decided at some point to retool it, and I think I have that in another video somewhere. And I pulled all the guts out of this kit, and you can see that's an old blotting rag that I have. I have to change that. But I tore out the whole guts on the inside, and I decided to go from 24 colors to 30-something colors, and added my own Daniel Smith paints, and I have some other paints in there. And I changed out the Sakura Koi brush, which I really like, but it's not great. What I replaced it with is a Pentel water brush. Now, I'm not paid for this video. This is just my own thing. There's no sponsorship here. I just love the Pentel water brushes because they work for me. And I've used several over the years. You can control the water very efficiently with the Pentel brush. Some people claim that it's too wet. Some say it's not wet enough. I think it's perfect because once you learn to control and squeeze out how much water you want, that's where it all comes into play. It's how you use it. Now, these are Holbein water brushes that I've had for a few years now. They're very hard to find nowadays. They're expensive. They have a longer body so you can hold more water in them. I didn't find the bristles to last very long. These here are Studio Series. They were made for Barnes Nobles. These were really cheap. Where the Holbeins were expensive, these were really cheap for a set of, I think, 5 or 6 of them. I bought a couple of sets because I gave some to students to use. And you can see here that they're okay. I mean, the bristles are really cheap, basically. And they do the job. But the bristles wear out over time. You can see they're very splayed. They're not high quality synthetic fibers. But what I did love about these Studio ones is that I would fill them with ink. Instead of filling them with water, you can actually fill them with ink. Now, this black one here has had the same ink in it for a couple of years now. I add a little more every year. I use these for Inktober. But you can see that the ink flow is really top notch when it comes to just a cheap water brush. So you can imagine if I used a higher quality water brush. So this is gray ink here. Again, I've had this ink in there for years. It hasn't dried out. It hasn't hardened up. And the bristles still are delivering a really nice load of ink. And you can see here in this piece here, this is a piece I did for Inktober a few years ago. I used those 2 brushes for this piece. So they work perfectly for my style and the way I work. Now, for me, I love the Pentel water brushes. There's Kuretake, there's Sakura the Holbein, Caran D'ache has theirs. They have a push button system for delivering the water. Derwent has theirs, which has a unique cap on the top so it doesn't roll off your table. Faber Castell has theirs also with a push button. I prefer the Aquash water brush from Pentel. They have 3 different sizes. They have the small one, they have a medium, they have a large, and they also have a flat one. I prefer just the medium size round. because that's the way I work. The small ones are good for finer details, but I don't really worry about it too much. Now, in this Etcher sketchbook, every piece you see that I'm showing you here was done with this water brush, or one of these water brushes. I have several. And so the reason I have several of them is because I recycle them, or I will give one away, or I'll just throw one away because the filters inside get kind of nasty. I'll talk about that in a minute. But you can see I have a great time. This is cold press water paper, watercolor paper, and it works perfectly for my hobby, for my style. These drawings are all just for fun. There's nothing serious about these. These are not going anywhere. They're staying in this sketchbook. And I draw with a Sharpie. So the Etcher sketchbook, the Sharpie doesn't bleed through unless I hold it down really long. But when I'm doing just a quick drawing, I use a fine Sharpie and an ultra fine, and that's the line work that you see. Now, when it comes to painting with the water brush, and this goes for all water brushes, it's just as simple as squeezing out the water onto the palette, adding the paint, and using the desired density of paint that you want. It's all about how much paint you put into that water. The watercolor brush can be used in a bunch of different ways. Here I'm going to do wet on wet by adding just some drops of water onto the paper, fill in the area that I want. It's almost like masking because the paint is only going to fill in the areas that I've made wet here. So when I add color to this, it's not going to paint outside and bleed out into the dry areas. It's going to bleed inward. And that's what I love about working this way, is that these bristles always stay wet, so I can continually move the colors around. Now again, this piece is for fun and for demonstration. This is not a serious piece. If I were more serious about this piece, I would be paying more attention to details, and I might even, if it was a finished piece or a piece for a client or something, I would probably use a traditional paintbrush, because a traditional paintbrush, you're going to have much more control. You're going to have the ability to use a synthetic brush or a natural brush if you have natural brushes. You can have animal hair brushes if you have those. I don't recommend buying those because I just don't like the whole aspect of it. But with a water brush, it's as easy as filling it up with water. I have these pipettes here. You can get pipettes on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. I got these, I think, at a pharmacy or somewhere. I forget where I got those. But the pipettes allow for easy fill up. You can fill them up under the sink. I've done that in a hotel room. However you fill it up doesn't matter. And then you just screw the top back on and you're ready to go. When you run out of water, you fill it back up and you're good to go. Now, that brush that you see that I just used was an older brush that I've had probably for a couple of years now, and I can tell just by looking at it and the feel of it, it's too old now. So I bought a brand new one to replace this one. I buy one maybe once every 2 years, I guess, a couple of years, because you can see side by side the new one. You can see how tight everything looks inside of it if you look through the transparent cap there. The old one, the filter is just expanded too much. It's dirty. And I know from experience that it's time to change out this brush. It's seen its time. So it's done well for me, and I'm happy with it. But if you want to take a look at what's inside the tip of a water brush, here's the housing for that. And it's as easy as pushing down, if you desire to see what's inside, pushing down firmly on the top of it without crushing the bristles, and pushing it down to get the cap out. And the internals of the cap. And you can see here there's a little plug there that controls the amount of water that goes up into the bristles. And this filter, which you can see is pretty nasty, and I just want to get rid of it, just fell apart in my hand. Now you've got the bristles here and this little sort of chassis. The chassis has a way of allowing the water to go through the filter and into the bristles in a controlled fashion. Now these are just synthetic bristles. They're nothing fancy. They're just plastic, and they're melted on the bottom to keep them together. So you can see that little spot on the bottom there is just pressed down on a hot plate or something where it melts and keeps the bristles intact. Now, what I love about the Pentel bristles is they're very firm and very thick fibers, and they hold together really well, and they all come to a tapered point. So when you push this back up through that little chassis there, it goes up nice and easy, nothing snags, and you can put this thing back together without any hitches, without any problems. Now, again, this is an old brush, so I wouldn't even give this one away just because it's had its time. I'm just going to unfortunately put this in the recycle bin or in the trash, and I hate to do that, but I wish there was a way to recycle it, but it's had its time. The reservoir I can keep, and the cap I can keep, and I can recycle those and use those as spares. But this tip piece, I got to get rid of it. It's just not good anymore. So now I'm going to use this brand new, sparkling new Pentel water brush. And I don't have a preference. I'm not paid by Pentel to promote their brushes, but I really do use these pretty much every day. If not every day, at least 4 to 5 times a week. This is my routine when I end the evening. I like to put on the TV and just either draw out the sketch or the drawing, and then maybe on another day color it in. And I love to do that. I love to have a sketchbook full of drawings that are uncolored and come back later and add color. And so in this video, I'm not showing you a high quality piece here. This is, again, just for fun, for demonstration. And this is pretty much how I work at night too. If I have some time and downtime in the evening, this is what I like to do. So why do you need a water brush? Well, you don't need a water brush. Regular paint brushes are amazing. They're wonderful and they're fun to use. However, a water brush allows you to travel with this kit or travel with whatever kit you have. And you don't have to worry about carrying little cups of water or finding water or having a water bottle to the side. It's just great to travel with the little reservoir. Now, one thing I will say is I love this because here you can see I just put a little of the olive green paint on the page and I can pull out those little areas of the dry color. Painting wet on wet is fine, and using a water brush allows you to keep the page wet continuously because you're always moving water around. But if you can dry off the tip of these bristles, you're never going to get them fully dry. But I keep a little blotter paper towel with me at all times, and I'm constantly wiping off onto that blotter to get the water off. So I can put down a couple of dots of color and then move those dots around like you see here. And that's just one of the ways I love to work with this. This is pretty much standard. If I was using a traditional paintbrush, it would be a little bit different, not too far off, but you have to go from brush to water to either the paint pan or whatever, and to the palette to mix your colors or dilute them a little bit. So there's a process involved with a traditional paintbrush, as you can imagine. With a water brush, you eliminate a lot of that need. You're going just from the water brush to the paint pan to the palette to mix your colors. And it eliminates the need for that step of washing the brush, cleaning the brush between each wash. You don't have to do that. For this, when you clean the brush, you just squeeze water out into your paper towel, wipe it off, and go to the next color. And it's very, very easy. And that's why I say maybe you may need to try one of these water brushes. I mean, it's something to consider. This was about $5 or $6 on Amazon, so to me that's pretty cheap money. And so I got this in a couple of days, and I'm using it now for this demonstration. So it was very quick to get, very inexpensive. It's available. Like I said, the Holbein water brushes are very hard to get. Some of the other ones, like the Caran D'ache, they're tougher to get because they're not available in a lot of places. So have I tried a lot of these different ones? Yes, they're wonderful. But the ones with a push button, it didn't work for me the way I like these ones. I like to be able to just squeeze. I don't like to have to fiddle around with a button and push it, and maybe I'm pushing it not enough or whatever. These I have learned to control the water flow. They do take time to learn to use. You're not just going to take it out of the package, put water in it, and go without some kind of a learning curve. So you will need to figure out what works for you. But I'm telling you, the learning curve is small. The fun factor is through the roof, because these things I really just can't say enough about having a water brush. And even those cheap ones that I got from Barnes Nobel, they did the job, and they continue to do the job even 5, 6, 7 years after I bought them. I mean, I forget how long ago I got them, but it's been years since I bought them, and I'm still using them for Inktober, which is a testament to the design and the fact that they still work and they don't degrade, because most of the parts are plastic and they're not going to just crumble up. Now, the filter is like a little spongy material. Yes, I have seen those kind of crumble up and, fall apart. And that's why I will get rid of a water brush, is when it fails. So you can see here in the final piece, this was just for fun, but you could see how much fun I have doing this. Now, I do clean my brushes. So like a traditional brush, I will clean it. Synthetic hairs are also, usually plastic or fiber, polyester or something, or some other material. But these plastic ones, they do need cleaning as well. And a lot of people don't mention that a water brush should be cleaned. And the preserver, I add the preserver on here, which is what that little white cake is. I put a preserver on here to make sure I keep it at a fine point, and when I store it away, it's not going to be a problem. So when I go to use it again later, it's ready to go and all that. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and it was informative. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and I'll bring more content like this to you in the future. I can't say enough about water brushes. They have been with me a long time. I've been using them for years. Maybe try one for yourself, see if you like it, and if you do, let me know in the comments below if you use one or if you like the idea. Thank you so much again, and as always, God bless.